Namaskara, good evening, and welcome to Bangalore International Center. This evening session is part of a series that BIC has undertaken to the run-up to the elections in May, Karnataka Votes 2023, and this session is titled Mathas and Politics in Karnataka. So this panel consists of KV Aditya Bharadwaj, journalist, BL Shankar, Vice President of the KPCC, Mr. Jeevit Patil, Secretary of the Jagatika Lingayat Mahasabha, and is moderated by Vikhar Ahmad Said, who is a journalist. And over to Vikhar.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bangalore International Center. Welcome to the second discussion that we've organized as we head towards the Karnataka elections. The theme of today's discussion is unique, interesting, and hopefully with the excellent panel that we have here, we hope to understand this rather complicated theme. So, as Karnataka inches towards the Legislative Assembly elections, which are slated to be held in April-May, the role of religious mathas or Hindu monasteries will once again become noteworthy in the state. Leading politicians, we've seen that this has already started, across political parties will make it a point to visit and hold meetings with notable seers representing a wide variety of caste groups in Karnataka. While certain Brahmin and Lingayat mathas have a historical salience, and we will discuss that as well, the rise of mathas of other backward castes and Dalit groups in the state over the past few decades has coincided with the widening and deepening of the democratic process in Karnataka. It is true that these religious institutions have played a prominent societal role, with most of them using their spiritual cachet to run charitable establishments such as schools and hospitals. But a provocative perspective is that the association of a matha or mathas with a particular caste group is also the culmination of the linkage between politics and caste, as the caste matha subsequently begins to be patronized by politicians, fulfilling the main purpose for which it was formed. The discussion proposes to examine this intricate connection between politics and mathas in Karnataka. Some of the themes that we will discuss is a very provocative question. Can mathas be deemed as political institutions, as they are often subtly or overtly involved in bargaining for the community's interests? Is it redundant now to merely categorize mathas as religious institutions? Do the religious pontiffs leading these mathas have the influence to substantially sway the community's votes, either in favor of or against a political party? Another interesting question is, since many of the recent mathas represent backward castes and Dalits, can we argue that they have helped in the process of legitimizing backward caste and Dalit aspirations, and in the process contributed to widening democracy in Karnataka? So this is the background note, and these are some of the themes that we propose to discuss. I'd like it very much if Aditya, leading journalist with The Hindu, began this session by sharing his thoughts.
So I think Vikhar told me to give a background kind of historical perspective. So it is evident that it is election season, because unlike in North India where they do temple rounds, here they do matha rounds, right? Most of the politicians have already started that. So this question of the linkage between a Hindu monastery or any religious institution and political power, if you see the history of Karnataka alone, it is very old. It is not entirely new. For instance, Vidyaranya, who was the seer of Sringeri Mutt, is said to have helped establish the Vijayanagar Empire. Then, if you see, there was patronage of Sringeri Mutt by Tipu Sultan. It was ransacked by the Marathas. And there is also another instance where Ramanujacharya converts Bitti Deva of Hoysalas to Sri Vaishnavism. So the intricate link between a Hindu monastery and political power is not very new in Karnataka. And it is not always very cozy also. There has always been instances of rupture between the spiritual center and the political power. One of the good examples is also Basavana, though it was not a monastery per se, the Mahamane. And then we see the Jangama massacre during the Wadiyar's time. So there have been ruptures and there have been a cozy relationship where the monarch used to draw his legitimacy from the patronage of the Matha. And also in turn, the Mathas used to be patronized by the kings. The problem arises when in the post-independence time, when we have accepted it to be a secular democratic republic, this linkage seems to continue and it seems to have grown much, it is more cemented and more overt and more, because earlier it is usually the Brahmins and the Lingayat Mathas that were seen. And in the last 50 years, if we see, now almost every caste in Karnataka either already has a Matha, which is of very recent vintage, or aspires to form a Matha. The best example is very recently in May 2022, just 6 months ago, you might have heard of this politician called BJ Puttaswamy. He started his career in Congress, then he was with BJP. He was a close associate of Yediyurappa. So he's 82 now, and he realized that there is no Matha for Ganigra community, the oil pressers. So he has formed his own Matha and he has become a sannyasi and a Pitadipati of that Matha. Because he is saying now, okay, I worked in politics, now the community needs a Matha. So this is the best example probably of a Matha being formed probably very explicitly for political reasons. A very recent, 6 months old Matha, it is in Nelmangla. So this process started probably, even the Lingayat Mathas. If you see the history of Hindu monasteries, probably the monastery concept in India probably emerged from Buddhism and Jainism. And then the Brahmins are said to have adapted that concept. And if you see even the Lingayat Mathas, which are the most politically organized and more prominent, the history starts usually from 15th century. That is almost 2 or 3 centuries after the Basavana time. So probably even the Lingayats aped the Brahmins and started their own Mathas. Mr. G.B. Patil will be a very good person to clarify on that. So the Adi Chunchanagiri Matha, which is actually a Nath Sampradaya Matha, it is not a Vokkaliga Matha. The Vokkaligas don't have a Matha Parampare in Karnataka. If you see in the 70s, probably post the unification, the insecurity the Vokkaligas were facing because of the Lingayat dominance after unification, the Vokkaligas patronized Adi Chunchanagiri Matha, and it has in the last 50 years, we see that it has now become a Vokkaliga Matha from a Nath Sampradaya Matha. So then on the Muruga Math Seer, who is now in the dock for a rape case, he actually initiated many other communities, including Dalits, several OBC communities, to form their own Mathas. So now, in the last 6-7 months, you might have seen the Mathas and the seers leading agitations for a better reservation share. The Panchamsalis are doing it, the Kurubas are doing it. The Valmikis did it and they were successful. They have got a hike in the ST reservation share. So earlier in the 80s, Bel Shankar will be the best person to say this. I think Balgangadhar Nath Swami also led an agitation for Vokkaligas to get reservation in the OBC share. So now the Mathas seem to have emerged as one of the primary platforms for caste communities to negotiate with the state and to organize themselves. In Karnataka, the Vokkaligar Sangha and the Veerashaiva Mahasabha are almost 100 years old, more than 100 years old. But somehow the communities seem to have given up on the caste associations and taken to the matas because it probably has a cultural quotient. Because it probably about conservation of their caste culture, and it has a non-partisan kind of adjudicator kind of role a seer can play, which the caste association probably cannot. So now the matas have slowly emerged as something aspirational for most communities, and they have become the primary instrument for negotiating with the state at one end, from the community's end. From the political party side, it is this very symbiotic relationship, and it has become one of the easy platforms available to make inroads into the communities. So whether a mata can sway a community completely pro or against en masse for a person, for a political party, I don't think any community anywhere will en masse vote for one party or against one party usually. It is predominantly a large faction. I think if you see the history and if you see how matas have been formed, also with the goal of organizing themselves and getting a better share with the state, I think it does play a big role in also swaying the community's opinions during elections also, I think.
Thank you, Aditya, for your preliminary comments. Mr. Shankar, if we perhaps move to you, since Aditya mentioned the Adi Chunchandgiri, it is on, I think, sir. You can, yeah. So, since Aditya mentioned the Adi Chunchandgiri much specifically, and my own understanding is that for several of the later mathas representing the backward caste and the Dalits, for the religious leaders who were trained by Muruga Matha in the 90s onwards, I think, 80s onwards, I think the Adi Chunchandgiri Mutt's establishment, its prestige, the manner in which it somehow came to represent the Vokkaliga community was a model to be emulated. I don't think the other caste mathas have reached that state still, simply because, you know, the Adi Chunchandgiri Matha is backed by the very powerful Vokkaliga community. If you can talk about some of the developments that took place in the 70s and 80s, when you were also closely associated with Mr. Devegowda, I think it will give our listeners a good perspective on how this process took place at that time.
Good evening, everybody. The issue is very ticklish, complicated, and it has to be handled in an election year. It has to be handled in a very clever manner, even what the politicians are doing now. I do not have a very close association with any mutt, including Adi Chunchandgiri Mutt, because I swear by Kuvempu's ideologies and Basavana and Buddha's ideologies, and so I am not a member of any Sangha, Vokkaliga Sangha or any other Sangha. But I do know the late Balgangana Swamiji and the present Swamiji also. I have attended many of their programs. The Adi Chunchandgiri Mutt was there, earlier also it was there. Before Balgangana Swami also there was some Swamiji. In our area from where I come from, Chikmagalur and Malnad areas, we had no idea that there is a mutt for Vokkaligas. Most of us, our reverence was towards Dharmasthala Hegde, Manjunatha Swami, and some of them were going to Balehunnu Rambapuri Pita, and some of them even to Sringeri. So all the priests that perform the rituals in Vokkaligas community is, even now it is Brahmins. There are no Vokkaliga priests or anything, it is even now Brahmins. Celebrating marriages or anything, all these things, only Brahmins do it. No Vokkaliga priest will come or no Vokkaliga priest will perform pujas except in Vokkaliga Mutt, maybe in Chunchandgiri and some other place. Otherwise, it is even now 99.9% only Brahmin priests. So the Vakaligas were mainly religiously influenced by Brahmins. Not even like, though Rambapuri Math is there in Chikmagalur, its influence is very limited, but there is a large influence of Brahmins on Vakaliga community. Till Kuvempu's writings and Kuvempu's preachings became popular. His adherence and his reverence was only to Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Sharada Mata and Vivekananda. From then on, some changes have taken place in Tirthalli, Shivamogga district and some part of Chikmagalur district also, where Vakaligas are predominant. Of course, in the Vakaliga heartland, what you call in these 4 or 5 districts, there of course the influence of Adi Chuncharya Math is there. So one thing we should know that the people in India in general are religious. 98-99% of the people are religious. They are also very much aware of their caste for which they belong. So this caste and religion politics is played predominantly in northern part of India. Because I am a product of JP's movement in 70s, when we were all having our allegiance to JP and JP movement and ideologies propagated by him, gradually when the Janata Party broke into pieces and when in 1980 BJP was formed, then the whole thing has changed. Most of the Janata Parivar, though they swear by socialism and swear by Ramanohar Lohia, most of them are identified by their caste, especially in Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. So there the Mandal and Kamandal, you know, very popularly Sharad Yadav, who recently passed away, he was the person who coined that Mandal versus Kamandal slogan, and it worked successfully in personal case of Mr. Lalu Yadav and Mulayam Singh Yadav. As far as Karnataka is concerned, whole thing started because the 12th century after the Basavanna and Alama Prabhu and Channabasavana, their Akama Devi ideologies and their vachanas became very popular in Karnataka, and they changed socially, made many reforms. It had its impact not only on those who follow Lingayat or Virashaiva, this thing, but also on others also generally. It was more a social movement than a religious movement, according to me, Basavanna. And all Sharana's movement was a social movement. Even now, I consider it as a social movement, not as a religious movement. Unfortunately, during Basavanna time only, when Haralaya and Madhuvara's children got married, intercaste marriage took place, whole Kalyana Kranti, what we call, has happened, and rest is a history now. Even Basavanna was not tolerated, and what happened in Kudla Sangama, this is all history now, part of history now. So after that, gradually this identity politics came into being because of the elections. When elections were fought on ideologies for a few decades after independence, up to 1970s, it was all on principles. Because the freedom movement was very fresh and people were committed to this country and people committed to some principles. Not much of a leftist, rightist and centrist distinction was there in politics till Indira Gandhi came into limelight and she became Prime Minister. In 1969, when socialists joined Indira Gandhi, under the leadership of Ashok Mehta, Chandrasekhar, Ramdan, Krishna Kant and Mohan Daria, then the ideology of Congress also changed. Till then, at that point of time, they were accused of status quo. The Congress party then, headed by Morarji Desai, Nidlingappa, Kamraj Nadar and those people. Then they wanted a change and economic policies were introduced and pro-poor, pro-scheduled caste, pro-minority politics started in 70s, after in 71 election after that. Then whole this identity of caste became more prominent then, and they gradually, since Congress was the major political party in the country, it percolated to all levels. So this identity politics, especially in Karnataka, when Devaraj Arasu became the chief of Indira Gandhi's Congress, the then ruling Congress, then in 1971 and 72, he made many experiments in politics. Those people who couldn't dream of becoming even a panchayat member we saw them becoming the legislators and parliament members. Jafar Sharif winning from Kanakpura, and so many examples we can give. Eva was winning from Chikmagalur Assembly segment, Veerappa Moily winning from Karkala, Dharm Singh winning from Jewargi. Many such examples could be given. So even that was a economic policy which influenced. Then in caste also didn't matter at all. People didn't see who is contesting and which caste he belongs. Only it was Congress party, its economic policy, pro-poor, pro-Dalit and pro-backward and pro-minorities. That was the issue. Gradually when reservation thing in jobs and education started, then the identity politics became prominent, more prominent and more prominent. Because Lingayas were, after this unification of Karnataka, as you have rightly said, unification of Karnataka, there was a fear that Lingayas will dominate Karnataka politics and Vakaligas and other communities from southern part of Karnataka will be doomed forever politically. But that was not so, but the main example was Kengal Hanumanthaya was, though he is from southern Karnataka, he was a chief minister, he built Vidhan Saudha and all that. Moment after the unification and all these things, there was no chance for Kengal Hanumanthaya to continue. He was dislodged from chief ministership and Kadal Manjappa was foisted in his place. And then rest is, then Nijalingappa came. Nijalingappa came and he was there for almost a decade. Almost a decade he was the chief minister. Then gradually the awareness among Vakaligas started after Balaganganatha Swami became the head of this Adi Chunchanagiri Mutt. Till then it was nothing to do with politics.
When was this, sir?
It was in 70s, late 70s and early 80s. He came there and he gradually started traveling and he started identifying with Vakaliga politicians and he started mobilizing them. And this number game in legislature and parliament started. This much of Vakaligas have to be there, this much of Lingayas have to be there. So this gradually became evident. And in 1969, when Congress got split as R and O, the most of the Vakaligas and Lingayas remained with Congress O because they were the people who were leading Congress party in Karnataka. Then, of course, Congress was led by late D. Devarajas. So there was this identity of Vakaligas and Lingayas remained with Congress O. Gradually, it became Janata Party and Janata Dal. Rest is a history now. So basically, these Vakaligas and Lingayas were anti-Congress because of the policies. The land reforms and many reservations that have been brought in by the progressive policies of Congress, they forced these people to stay in the party which was opposed to Congress, then the ruling Congress. Gradually it became Janata Party and Janata Dal. It is continuing till now. This support of religious mutts to political leaders started not even during Nijalingappa's time, it was not. Nijalingappa himself was defeated in Vasudurga. Long back, it was before the prominence of these mutts came. He was defeated by an ordinary Kuruba boy from Vasudurga constituency. That was not there. The Chitradurga district had two very powerful mattas, Muruga Mutt and Sirigere Mutt. In spite of it, Nijalingappa lost from there. So it was religious mutts who are not interfering in the electoral politics to that extent at that point of time. But it all started after Devarajas started this identity politics of minorities, scheduled caste and backwards and giving prominence to them. As a reply or retort to that, this identification of Vakaligas and Lingayas started. And more prominently, the seer of Sirigere Mutt, the earlier one, not Dr. Swamiji who is there now. Earlier to him there was Shivakumar Swamiji was there. He started to encouraging the political leaders from different political parties. He was a very powerful Swamiji and a very honest and committed Swamiji. Started many education institutions and all that. Taralabalu Hunnime, everything was started by him only. So he started that experiment. It is not that it will succeed. Patil will be knowing the present Swamiji, Dr. Sirigere Shivamurthy Swamiji, who is there now, he made an experiment in Chitradurga district. He nominated about 5-6 different candidates from different political parties in a particular election, 15-20 years back, and he said they should be elected. He gave an open call that they are better people among the contesting candidates, they should be supported and they should be elected. For your info, none of them got elected. Though he openly supported and he openly said that they should be supported and got elected, none of them got elected. I am correct, I believe, Patil. None of them got elected. It is not that just because a seer says it or a pontiff says it and just he supports a candidate, it doesn't happen like that. It is all gone down more deeper. The intricacies of the caste have gone more deeper into villages. Even every panchayat has got it, and likes and dislikes are very strong nowadays because of this. Many religious institutions got support recently. It's a matter of about 15 years. The government started directly helping the religious mutts in financial issues. They directly gave, it was not heard of in Karnataka. There, no religious institution or mutt was depending on government for its activities. Best example is Siddhganga Mutt. Siddhganga Mutt has educated record number of boys and students in more than 6 decades. Thousands of students and lakhs of students have come out from there. It was not depending on government.
On that point, if I could direct a question to Mr. Patil. Mr. Shankar made this very interesting point that direct governmental support for mathas began only 15 years ago. I think for people in the audience, perhaps you must be aware that this started with Mr. Yadurappa's tenure. I think first when he was Deputy Chief Minister, he granted some budgetary allocation for various mathas and then extended this during his tenure as a Chief Minister sometime in 2010 or 11, if I'm not mistaken. And this is what...
Everybody followed it.
Yes.
Even all the Chief Ministers after Yadurappa continued it.
Mr. Patil, I think this is a good time for you to come in to sort of comment on how perhaps the stature of these mathas and that intricate connection between politics increased tremendously during this era. Would that be right to say?
Sharanarthi. I'm happy that youngsters are joining. It is good that they would like to know the history, our traditions, culture, and all that. I differ with my friends. The mutts politics has not started very recently. It is in our culture. This goes to ancient history from Ramayana to Mahabharata. Am I not audible to you? Yes, it goes to the days of Ramayana and Mahabharata. All you must be knowing about that. The Guru has a significant role in both these epics. And after this, even this may be epics, even in our history, the Chanakya was a guru as well as economist. So, since several centuries, the guru is taking a significant role in politics as well as building the nation. This is not the first time. No doubt, in between the Vedic period, the influence of mutt must have come down. But even then, the Brahmins were playing a very significant role during those days. As you know, Chaturvarna, whereas the sects were ruling the country. One is Kshatriya and Brahmin. Who is Brahmin? He is a guru. He used to dictate the terms to the king. Though other two, majority of the people, almost around 90 to 95% were obeying his orders. The king used to take the orders from the guru and he used to implement that. Then goes on. Before 12th century, Kalamukas were the gurus of, I don't know whether I have to call a Lingayat or anything, but after 12th century, they have been called as Lingayat Because before that also gurus were there. They were Kalamkas. Their style of functioning was totally different. It was a very cruel nature. It was totally different from the ethics of a human being. It's a different history. It's a big history. I don't want to take up now. But after Basavana, Jangama has become very important part in his theory principles. Guru, Linga, Jangama. These were the major portion of his teachings. Whereas he says, once, even though if you are performing puja, if Guru comes, you will have to forget the puja and you will have to attend the Guru. That was the importance he has given to the Guru. Who is Guru? He is a preacher. He is as Jangama means, it is not the caste. It is a person who who teaches the principles of religion is called Jangama. Jangama is a forceful running water. It's something like that. I don't know how far I am able to translate into English. Jangama is a Bahala Vegavagi Hariva Nadi. I don't know how many of you are understanding Kannada.
A fast flowing river.
Fast flowing river without any hindrances. ಅಂದರೆ ಯಾವುದು ಅಡೆತಡೆ ಬಂದರೂ ಕೂಡ ಅದನ್ನು ತಳ್ಳಿಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗುವಂಥ ನದಿ. ಅದು ಮೂವಿಂಗ್. ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಸ್ಟೇಯಿಂಗ್. ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಸ್ಥಾವರ. Jangama means always moving. So it was who is this Jangama? Jangama should win all the Arishadva Vargala. Arishadva Varga, you must be knowing that. That Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Madha, Matsara, Moha. Shall I translate it into English? I think probably you will be knowing this. Kama means desire. Krodha means anger. Lobha, greed. Madha, sense. Moha, attachment. And Matsara, partiality. He has to win all these things. This is as per Natha Sampradaya. Before Basavana it was there. Because that is why Kalamaka Gurus were. They were totally different. They were not having any family. They were not staying in a particular place. They were only used to revere the Shiva. So after that Basavana came and he has given more importance to Jangama. Jangama became prominent and most of them, I don't know Mr. Shankar will agree for this or not, before this 12th century or before 15th century, before even the 19th century, there were no mud set at all for different sects, different castes. Only one.
I mean, apart from Lingayats, you mean?
No. Two mutts were there. One is Brahmin and one more is Lingayats.
Correct, yes.
Because Lingayats were almost parallel to Brahmins, That's the reason they had mutts. And probably, unfortunately, these mutts have not performed properly because they have not taken everybody into one aspect as per Basavana's preach. They have divided the society. They have kept these ups and lows. That is the main problem. That is how, because today, if you are seeing so many mutts for a different sects, because of this, the neglected people, neglected caste started having their own guru. That is why we are seeing so many mutts and everybody is asking for their own share in the politics, policies, reservations, whatnot, for everything. I think that's more than sufficient. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patil. But you didn't answer the question about how in 2010, so 12 years ago, former Chief Minister, Mr. Yediyurappa's largest budgetary allocation to the mathas broke some kind of barrier. At least, a sort of, that barrier
between government and mutts
was broken by the direct budgetary allocation. And a lot of this went to Lingayat mathas.
I don't know about that, but what I can say, budgetary allocations were not there before. People were thinking that religion is different and politics is different. So they never mixed, the rulers never mixed religion and politics earlier. This Yadiyurappa, because he is a believer in Vedic principles, must have thought that the guru should be happier than the subjects. So he started giving the donations to the mutts. Probably before also they must have given in a different kind. He has started allocating the funds to mutt, direct transfer of funds from the government to mutts. But mutts were doing good job. It is not that they have taken the money and swindled it or they have taken themselves. But earlier, as you know that Mr. Shankar has already told you that Tumkur Mutt has done a tremendous job. Likewise, so many mutts have done a tremendous job for giving education to the poor and downtrodden. This is maybe the reason of Mr. Yadiyurappa is giving the donations to the mutt, budgetary allocations, I say. So that in a way, it is something bizarre. Even we too were very much surprised of budget allocation of Mr. Yadiyurappa. How we can do all that we were thinking, but it has become a common practice because king can give anything to anybody. Nowadays they are not.
I think the answer is not so complicated, right? I mean, perhaps Aditya, you want to venture because clearly, whenever Mr. Yadiyurappa's position has been vulnerable, these religious pontiffs come out very openly and vocally in his support. So, as Mr. Patil is saying, perhaps the answer is not so complicated, Mr. Patil.
I don't know if I answered your question or not, but I'll try to answer your question.
Yes.
There seems to be a symbiotic relationship between politicians and the mattas. Even during the monarchic times, the king was drawing his legitimacy from the guru, from the matta, with the people. So Yadiyurappa was one of the first politicians who did it very openly, very explicitly. He did the same thing. Yadiyurappa was not, I think, until Shankar sir will be able to throw more light. I think until 2006-07, Yadiyurappa was also not considered an unchallenged Lingayat leader also. He became a Lingayat leader very recently also.
Thanks to Devagowda.
Thanks to them. So, how does Yadiyurappa become a Lingayat leader? One is because, like Shankar sir said, because JDS did not transfer power, a Lingayat was deceived power and other things. But how does he become a leader within the community? That is because of the patronage. One of the ways is by the patronage of the mattas.
I am afraid I am slightly differ with your views. He is still not a Lingayat leader. We are only considering 30% or 35% votes. Rest another 65% votes we are not considering because this is a democracy. 35% votes are more than sufficient what we think. Because it doesn't mean that entire Lingayat community has accepted Mr. Yadiyurappa as his leader.
Sorry, I don't understand the point. You're saying Mr. Yadiyurappa has only 30 to 35% of the...
Definitely. Even Mr. Modi has not got more than 39%. Am I right, Mr. Shankar?
Yeah.
No, it is a popular vote
among the voters.
It is but within the community, when it comes to what we call in political terms unchallenged leader, Devagowda for Vakaligas and Yadiyurappa for Lingayas and Siddaramaiah for backward classes, that is a fact of matter. This happened because the people were voting for the party for many years. Voting for an individual started when Indira Gandhi came into picture at the national level. Then she thought she is the only savior of the depressed and suppressed class. Then that started voting for Indira Gandhi came. That was the starting point at the national level. For some days that happened and later after Indira Gandhi, again it went to background. Narasimha Rao was not voted on the basis of individual or Manmohan Singh was not voted. It was a party which got the vote and ultimately they became the chiefs of the government. Now again it has come back in the form of Mr. Modi. Again now it is voting for Modi is more important than those people who doesn't like BJP also, some of them will vote for Modi. That is the trend now. Voting for individuals rather than the party. That started in Karnataka after Devaraj Arsu came in here in 70s. Voting for Devaraj Arsu, voting for Indira Gandhi, still they were together. Then when Ramakrishna Hegde, when we Janata Party people came into this thing, Ramakrishna Hegde was not in picture at all in 1983. It was Devegowda, Bangarappa, Bommai, and all these people were leading the party, non-Congress party. But finally Hegde became so popular. Then next election 85 was in the name of Hegde, voting for Hegde, Maulayadirtha Raj, value-based politics that he bought. Then again then it started regularly. Voting for Devegowda, voting for S.M. Krishna, voting for Virendra Patil, voting for Yediyurappa. Virendra Patil thing also happened. It is not first time that Lingayats voted en masse for Yediyurappa. They voted en masse for Virendra Patil first in 1989. When Virendra Patil was unceremoniously removed,
By Rajiv
then
Gandhi, yes.
Lingayats ditched Congress party and they migrated to Janata Party, Janata Dal and
Eventually to
Yediyurappa.
BJP.
Yeah, it is a fact. It is a fact of the matter. As far as Guru this thing is concerned, I concede to Mr. Patil that Gurus were there all along. Right from thousands of years, Guru was there to guide how to take forward the administration, how to do an administration. It is not that they were indulging in day-to-day politics and all these things. After this, we are discussing electoral democracy and parliamentary system democracy, the role of the mutts. If you go back beyond to the Ramayana days and Mahabharata days or Sharana's days, it is a different story, altogether a different story. Then many things will come in. This Sans language will come in, then the Manu will come in, and so many people will come in.
I
It
understand,
is a big
Mr.
thing.
Shankar.
We have no more time and it is
I
not
don't
a
think we
subject
have
today.
time
also.
to-
I would
Also,
like
the
to
thing
add
is-
here,
Yes, yes,
one minute, I would like to add here, Mr. Shankar is forgetting the Lingayat leader. Once upon a time, Lingayat leader was Mr. Hegde. Mr. Hegde was the Lingayat leader. Hegde, no. He has been considered as a Lingayat
So
leader.
I think
and
we are digressing slightly from the topic where we are.
Okay,
we want
done,
to focus closely on the.
But Ramakrishna Hegde lost from Bagalkot.
Yes.
He was considered as a Lingayat leader. He lost to Sidhu Nyamagowda in Bagalkot. He was very popular then.
Yes.
When he contested parliament from Bagalkot, he lost to Sidhu Nyamagowda. Only criteria for Sidhu Nyamagowda becoming a minister was that he defeated Hegde.
So,
Also, the thing
Aditya,
is-
the point
also
that
the-
you were making, you didn't complete
Yes,
the
yes.
point about how Mr. Yediyurappa emerged as a Lingayat leader.
Correct. That is one. And to answer GB Patil sir and Shankar sir also mentioned that. The thing is, the Guru played a role advising the king. That is a different issue. Now we have accepted to be a secular, democratic, parliamentary system of democracy. And then that becomes a problem because it fuses religion and political power. So we cannot say it, sadly it is continuing, but that is problematic because it is continuing in a secular democratic republic. That is one. So Yediyurappa, like you said, Yediyurappa in 2008 election, if you remember, when Kumaraswamy did not hand over the power and in 7 days Yediyurappa's government collapsed, he was going to Siddhganga Mutt when actually that happened. So the Yediyurappa, the role of the Mathas in giving Yediyurappa legitimacy as a Lingayat leader cannot be neglected, one. And whenever Yediyurappa has been in a crisis, even recently recently as 2 years ago, we did see the pontiffs, the seers come to the street and support Yediyurappa. Why was it such a big task, even for a high command led by Narendra Modi? Why was it such a big dynamite to change Yediyurappa? It was difficult to change Yediyurappa. It was difficult to remove Yediyurappa.
Because of the support.
Because
that
of
he
the
enjoyed.
support that he enjoyed from the Mathas, right? There was the ghost of Virendra Patil that was haunting BJP.
Correct.
And that is one of the reasons why today Yediyurappa has been replaced by a Lingayat. Even BJP is not able to move beyond the Lingayat vote base because of how the Lingayat support and the Lingayat Mathas have been fused which I think Yediyurappa did it.
That's useful. How, I mean, the emergence or the ascension of Yediyurappa as a leader because of his backing by the Lingayat seers.
So it is a symbiotic relationship. So he patronized the Matas.
It was a
in turn.
symbiotic relationship. He had to support them. They supported him.
Yes.
So to see these seers as merely being guardians of the spiritual space is very limiting in a way.
Correct.
No, but coming back to the early point that you made about the backward castes and other Dalit mathas coming up, what sort of cultural processes have taken place? Do you think it has increased caste consciousness? It has reduced, I mean, it certainly wouldn't have reduced caste consciousness, but socially, I think once you mentioned a process of Sanskritization is taking place. Do you see, can you discuss this slightly?
See, for example, even Vokkaliga sir said that it was influenced by Brahmins. But with other communities like OBC communities and Dalit communities having their own matas from late 80s, 90s, you see a process of once these communities did not have these kind of matas. I'll give you one example. I think this is a better example to illustrate this. Recently, BC Nagesh, Minister for Primary Education, held a meeting with all Hindu seers on what should be the content of moral education to be introduced in schools. So one of the Brahmin Swamis said that students should be given only Satvika Ahara, that they should not be given eggs, they should not be given garlic.
Onions.
Yes. So there were people who, there were seers from communities which are non-vegetarian eating communities. Like Madar Chennaya was there, who comes from the Dalit community. So there were many other seers, but nobody took an objection to this. So once there is a matha in these communities, at one level, it is becoming a tool of organizing these communities politically, socially, to negotiate with the state. That is one part of it. The other part is that these mathas are again sort of operating in a Brahminical framework, though there may not be a Sanskritization impulse explicitly. It may be there, it may not be there. Many of these backward caste and Dalit matas retain an anti-Brahminical rhetoric and they don't accept the hierarchy. Still, they operate within sort of a Brahminical framework, which they are imparting to the community. So, it also, I think, more than RSS in Karnataka, the mathas and the organization, VHP, for example, I'll give you one more example. Again, Madar Chennaya. Madar Chennaya is a Dalit Swami. He is taken to Virat Hindu Samavesha and he is put on the stage. And Pejawar Vishweshwar Tirtha, who was earlier there, he used to go to the Dalit Keris and there was a Pad Puja organized to Madar Chennaya. So there is something far deeper working where these communities are getting into either a larger Brahminical framework, more Sanskritizing, and also at some level, many of these communities did not have a Hindu identity earlier. A very entrenched, on the face Hindu identity. But now most of these seers are in Virat Hindu Samavesha. Bal Gangadhar Nath Swami was there, Nirmalananda today is there. Many of the Lingayat Swamis are there. Many of the newer OBC caste Swamis are all today on the stage of Virat Hindu Samavesha organized by VHP. So there is something far deeper working here, which it may not immediately help BJP per se electorally, because in a very contested, competitive, democratic space, all communities may not end up voting BJP. BJP is also defeated, and BJP has till date not got 113, even a simple majority in the state. But like the example I gave you earlier about seers from many non-vegetarian eating communities not objecting to a kind of diktat imposed by a Brahmins, given by a Brahmin Swami, that only Satvika Ahara should be given to students in schools in the state. So it creates a new framework which is more conservative, which is more Brahminical, which has a far deeper impact on the state's politics and public space and the society.
No,
Though it may not immediately help.
That's a very astute observation, and the rise, the establishment of these mathas has coincided with the rise of Hindu nationalism in the country and in Karnataka.
And in Karnataka
It is not a coincidence.
This is not a coincidence.
Like you said, it needs to be flushed out further, its political ramifications and its social ramifications.
Actually, there has not been, I was looking through it, there has not been much academic research also
There is
on the
limited,
impact of these matas in the newer OBC and Dalit communities on the communities and the social life.
Well, I was doing my research, I came across this quote by Dr. Siddhalingaya. The backward classes had the freedom to think progressively because they had no mathas. Instead of letting our friendships, education, books and films to shape our personalities, we are now letting the mathas do it. So it is unfortunate in a way for people like, Dr. Siddhalingaya who pushed back. Anyway, I think we don't
I have one question to Shankar sir.
Okay.
Sir, the thing is, why did the communities move away from caste associations like Okalagara Sangha, Veerashaiva Mahasabha towards matas? Why did the matas take predominance over the caste associations? And another question, sorry Vikar, I am asking. I am also a journalist. Another question is, you said you are not a subscriber to this matha brand of politics. Now, given the situation of how all pervasive it has become, how difficult it is for a politician to be like that and survive in electoral.
See, the present day's politics and present day's mutts activities should be seen together. Earlier, the mutts it was a Gurukul system. Just only Siddhganga Mutt followed it. It was not for profit. Just they thought it was their duty to educate all the people who are eligible to get educated, irrespective of caste. Many Muslims got educated there, many Christians, and many people belonging to all the castes. Lot of students from our area who belong to non-Lingayat communities also went to Siddhganga Mutt, got educated. Now it has been totally commercialized. Now they have started engineering colleges, medical colleges. It is now a business. Education is a business, and mutts have not also left behind in the competition of doing the business of education. So when they do the business of education, they need the support of the government. Naturally, they need the support for any starting a college, starting a school, or many such things. So it has become totally a business. Religion has also become a business. Politics has also become a business. Everything has become a business, including journalism also. Now it is a trade and it is a business now. There is no doubt in it. So it is nothing wrong in it also, if it is done properly. So when they do the business of education or business of this thing, the polarization, Sanskrit is not the reason for becoming or imposing. It is the religious polarization that is taking place in this country for last many years. It is the thing which brought many backward communities along with other communities towards a particular political party. It is now minorities versus majorities. That is what is happening here. That is wherever you go and see, it is not that the communities which are forward communities leading the anti-minority agitation. It is only backwards and many areas. You come to Chikmagalur in Datta Jayanti time, it is scheduled caste, it is backwards who are in the forefront. Not the Lingayas or Vakaligas or Brahmins. Even go to South Canara, which is a...
But his question was, why have you personally...
See, ideologically, if you are committed to Buddha, Basava, or Kuvempu, or Gandhi, you cannot be a casteist.
Sir, how are you surviving in today's politics?
No, who said I am surviving? If I would have survived, I would have been in Vidhan Savda, not here in BIC. I have not survived that test. I know I am not running away from it. I am not able to survive that because I was defeated twice. I contested in Bangalore, I lost. Because they said I am from Chikmagalur, can't do justice here.
No, sir.
And when I contested in Chikmagalur, I lost because of religious polarization. So, winning is not just surviving.
No,
I am
my
still
question-
relevant.
I know, sir.
If I was not relevant, you would not have called me.
No, sir.
here. Yeah.
That was not my point, sir. What I was asking was, for somebody like you, who follows Kuvempu, Buddha and Basava, when the politics has become so infused with matas, religion, is it not difficult for you to negotiate that space by sticking to your ideology? So,
And your principle.
has the atmosphere become so vitiated that we are not able to get someone like you?
No, it is a very...
Because as a practicing
it
politician,
is a very unhealthy combination of not only caste and religion, money also. Unfortunately, Karnataka, entire southern India except Kerala, it is caste, portion of religion and money. This is what is dominating Karnataka politics. I am out of electoral politics not just because of caste politics, it is because of money politics. Unless you become corrupt and unless you spend crores of rupees, you can't win an election. All the political parties, including my party, all the three parties which are competing here, we have to just still watch what AAP is going to do now. So let us see, because they are in this competition in southern India, first time. So let us see what they are going to, that is the future, let us see. But this combination of caste and money power is a dangerous thing that is happening in Karnataka and which happened in Tamil Nadu, which happening in Andhra and Telangana also. Kerala is the only state which has been insulated out of this. The caste politics, religion politics is there in Kerala also, but not this money politics. If you go and last year they had their they had their assembly election. No, ask them how much money they have spent. They have spent within the limit of whatever the election commission has prescribed, or little more than that. They just wonder if you speak in crores here. So that is why this polarization is on the basis of religion. So the backward communities, they have been set up against the minorities. There's a whole thing. They say that the popular public, this thing they are making issue is that country is in danger because of the minorities.
So yes, sir.
That is bringing all these people together. I think it is a passing phase, temporary phase, but it's becoming a longer phase. That is the tragedy.
I think before I open it up for questions, Mr. Patil, since you haven't spoken much, this demand for a separate religion by certain section of the Lingayat community, several prominent Lingayat Swamijis participated in that movement. But after 2018, when Congress lost, when Siddaramaiah, they lost in the Lingayat areas, and that was one factor that was attributed for Congress's loss in 2018. Where have all these Swamijis disappeared? What happened to the movement itself, for the independent religion? Because was it purely driven by a political agenda briefly at that time?
Thank God you asked the right question. I really wanted to answer this question. In fact,
We didn't discuss this before.
if you read the recent history, the ruling party has not come back to the power since so many decades in Karnataka. Only after first, until Gundurao or so, the Congress party used to win the elections back to back. After that, the scenario has been changed. Only once, am I right, Mr.
since 85, the incumbent has not.
Yeah, 83, Janata Party, when Janata Party came to
Actually,
power.
after a full government.
Only once Mr. Hegde came back to the power, that too because of some bhavanatmaka, these reasons. Otherwise, the party, ruling party, has not come back to the power, one aspect. And second thing, I would like to go a little deep into that. What I understood from the Congress party, I don't know, Mr.
So
Shankar.
we have 2 minutes. So
Okay.
you can.
You asked me such a big question. I'll have to narrate that properly. That's the reason I'm taking a little more time. Anyway, the loss of Congress party is totally painted in total different way. The loss of Congress party not because of only the Lingayat separate religion, but because of so many reasons. If you take their internal survey of 2017 June or so, their survey says around 55 seats they are going to win those days. After wherever we had a rallies and all that, in those districts, the Congress fared very well.
Okay.
It is not that because of Lingayat religion, because of separatism and all that, it is not. But the second question, because you asked me to brief it, second question is that the agitation or the demand of separate religion is not died down. It is very much there. Because we are not on the streets, but our young friends are attracted by Basavanna philosophy and they are very much learning about Basavanna. They are asking who is Basavanna, what is his principles, and who are all involved, and 100 castes. And all this they are asking. It is going on thanks to the social media. Main media, they are not putting us on the forefront. But whereas in social media, we are very much active. They are afraid of, these Vedics are very much afraid of us. And that is the reason everywhere they are taking Basavanna's name. And they are only taking Basavanna's name. They are only installing Basavanna statue. But they are not preaching Basavanna's principles, which they are totally against to their principles. Thank you.
Thank you. sir.
Just 1 minute.
Yeah, sure. One very quick point.
No, the other time what I was telling, I was at in the middle. So the thing is, I was talking of VHP's role in the growth of BJP in the state. So Pejawar Vishweshwar Tirtha, the former seer from the Pejawar Mutt in Udupi, was one of the co-founders of VHP, and the second convention was held here only in the state, in Udupi. So Pejawar Vishweshwar Tirtha went to the Dalit areas, and many progressives also saw that he is one person who seemed to have a dilemma between tradition and modernity. But if you see the stands that he has taken later on with Ram Janmabhoomi movement and how he welcomed other seers to VHP stages and other things, his dilemma seemed to be, many in Karnataka probably misread his dilemma as between tradition and modernity. Probably his dilemma was between Brahmanism and Hindutva. And because of this misreading, I think there was a delay in identifying this drive towards a subtle Brahmanism and communal polarization. Shankar sir said that today the backwards, the Dalits are the foot soldiers in the state. But how was it possible is a question, right? So once, I think this element of Sanskritization, or it may not be Sanskritization, it may not be an aspiration.
If we break down Sanskritization, what is Sanskritization? The aspiration, the upwardly mobile aspiration to follow the cultural practices of the Dvaita communities. Then vegetarianism perhaps, and then following of certain Vedic rituals. Has this happened? For example, say the Madhika Matha that has established, is this Swami encouraging his followers to become vegetarian?
No, that is what I'm saying. There are two processes here. These mathas may have retained an anti-Brahminical rhetoric. So they may not be, it is not only Sanskritization. We cannot say that they want to become Neo-Brahmins. That process is also happening in many communities.
I mean, I think...
But I am saying...
No, but
there is
Brahminical, I don't understand it, because as you yourself pointed out, there were trained in a Veerashaiva kind of tradition.
Correct.
So again, it becomes complicated because certain Virakta mathas are very anti-Brahmanical themselves.
Correct.
So there are many layers to it. I
Correct.
think it's you've sort of pointed out to how you've sort of given us ideas as to how these mathas are performing, the roles that they're performing, and the way in which society is transitioning. But there are no easy answers.
Yes. So what I was trying to point out is that these mathas, we are looking at mathas as in mathas and politics. We are looking from a narrow perspective of elections and other things. I think mathas play a far more deeper political role in the society.
Thank you, Aditya. This is an interesting point to conclude with, because I kept trying to bring back the discussion to mathas, but it kept sort of meandering to wider political stories. So, I mean, again, reinforcing the point of the intricate connection between mathas and politics. Now we have time for some questions. Akar, yeah.
Two very basic ones. Who or what is worshipped at these new caste-based mathas? And for a community that doesn't have a tradition of mendicants or of people who take the robe, where do they find these volunteers from?
Who is this question for? Anyone? Aditya.
No, actually, most of the OBC and Dalit mathas that have come up were instituted by the Muruga Matha in Chitradurga. So he found people from these communities and gave Dikshe, what it is called. And they have established these mathas. Earlier it was very closely linked to the Muruga Math. But
Diksha, giving the Diksha is a very Lingayat thing.
Yes.
So the question is, what is worshipped? What at these mathas? What is the role?
No, they worship their own deities.
Their own deities.
It is not that everybody worships Krishna, Rama, or Hanuman, or some devis. They have their most of the mutts, most of the backwards and oppressed, depressed classes people worship their own god or goddesses, which are village based, Maramma, Kalamma. So they continue to do that. In a broader sense, the most acceptable god in India, what I have seen, is Shiva. Shiva is the most acceptable god. So they see, in my home also there are many gods and goddesses there. I myself do not know which is. There are a tradition of family deities. They say that our forefathers say that Kala Bhairava is our family deity. When my village people went to ask for some questions, they call Ashtamangala, you may be knowing, in the southern part of Karnataka, in coastal area. Then he told, I was also present in that out of curiosity. Then he told that you are not Shaivas, you are Vaishnavas by tradition. You should have worshipped Ranganatha and Vishnu, you are worshipping a wrong god. Then I asked him whether you have to change now. No, he will be unhappy. Don't discontinue that. Worship him also. That is the arrangement in villages, sir. It is not the strict and hard and fast that you should worship only. They worship many gods. Only during Basavanna time, he tried to see that there is no idol worship. He tried to create a very nearer to Islam this thing, that Ishtalinga Puja. They have to, everybody considers God themselves. Just like Buddha, that there is no idol worship or anything that he told. But now the Lingas goes to all the temples and all this thing. They also build temples. They go to all the, right from Tirupati to all the places, they also go. They are in the forefront in Ayodhya, they are forefront in Mathura. Everywhere they are in forefront nowadays. Just because it is a matter of convenience, sir. According to me, the relationship between man and God, and it is a matter of convenience to both of them, both to God and human beings. Same way with Dalits, same way with backward classes. Most of them, it is all rural deities and which are local deities, which are they consider more powerful. You might have all seen and heard about Kantara, a lot of things about Kantara, the film which has made a lot of noise and name and money also. See, in my place, in my own coffee plantation, once in 2 years we perform Kola. Because that is a tradition which has been being followed from more than 250 years. Since then, that estate is there.
Kola is from Dravid.
Dravid, yes, that we now also perform, because all the people who perform that kola, same thing that what is there in that film, they come from coastal area only. All of them, 100% of them are the scheduled caste and backward classes. Not even a single person who is performing that is a upper caste man. All of them are scheduled caste and backwards. Still, all the upper caste respects it and performs it. And there is a Christian friend of mine in Chikmagalur who has a huge estate. He also gets it done once in 2 years. He told me that it is a tradition, I do not want to break it. Whether he believes it or not.
But I think responding also, if the process of Sanskritization takes place, then these local village deities are not going to be worshipped in a centralized matha, right? I think the point that both of you made through the discussion, what I understood is Muruga Matha's intervention in the 80s and 90s was very crucial in changing the paradigm of how a matha is formed.
Yes.
So then there is Sanskritization. So I would imagine that
Sanskritization, by you mean a language or a tradition?
No, it's
Tradition.
more like a sociological concept where the lower castes are aspiring to emulate the practices of the upper castes.
Which is popularly known as Hinduism nowadays. Hindutva.
Yes.
Which is more easily
I
understood
think
than...
Sorry, I think
Sir.
we will have to get another question. This is
No, the thing is, these communities, which don't have a tradition of monasteries, they have sort of been initiated by the Muruga Matha, but they follow their own traditions and they are almost autonomous. They are not very intrinsically linked to the Muruga Matha.
No.
Yes.
No, I would like to, I have a
Most
different
of them
idea.
worship nature.
No, I have a different idea.
Yes,
This Muruga Matha actually given this Diksha to all these Swamiji with the intention of bringing 770 Sharanas in this thing, particular form. Because he has identified so many castes in Lingayat Dharma, and each caste he has given a mutt. That was the main idea. He has given mutt to all the communities. There are so many, 170 to 770 the Sharanas, according to him. So there are so many castes, means depending on the kayaka, means work. So that was the main intention. He has divided that because for agriculture he has made Panchamsali. For a businessman, that is called Banajika and all that. For them a separate Matha and all that. Likewise, he has separated Math. In fact, they are supposed to teach Basavana's philosophy as per him. I don't know, the local deity or their family deity
like one
must be different.
During researching before this panel, I learned that the Gollas, which is a community in central Karnataka, who aspire, who have sort of certain connections with the Yadavas of North India and Bihar, they were sort of initiated by Muruga Matha, and in their Matha, Krishna is worshipped. So that is one answer. But regarding other castes and communities, I think I will take other questions.
It is very fluid actually between the Lingayat community and many of these OBC and Dalit communities.
Basavana wanted a casteless society. Yes. Ultimately, what is happening is each caste is given a pontiff seer by a follower of Basavana himself. That Muruga Swami did that.
We all hope for a casteless society, sir. My question is, largely, if we take Karnataka elections, which is coming up soon, as a voter, we are more confused than politicians. We don't know what is going to happen, and most likely the prediction is that it's going to be a fractured mandate again. Probably JDS or AAP might be a kingmaker in this kind of a situation. That's most likely going to happen, no matter what the Matha does. But I think Matha has largely been a force for good.
Yeah.
Right. My question is that can politicians or journalists change the narrative, and what caste breaks can Kannada language unite? What caste divides can language like Kannada can it unite people and ensure that as a state we do good rather than, talking about various other things that, don't provide any value to us? Can we use language as a narrative instead of these things? And what role can Matha play in doing so?
I don't know if someone wants to
It
take
has
that
not worked in Karnataka politics for last, at least from 80s, which we saw. You were the first to defeat Congress in Karnataka in 1983 onwards. Only opportunity was there in 1983 when these three movements took place between 80 and 83 when Gunturrao was the chief minister. The Kannada movement led by Gokak movement led by Dr. Rajkumar, the farmers movement led by Nanjun Swami and Rudrappa, then the Dalit movement led by many stalwarts. That was the time when the language would have become an issue if Rajkumar had accepted to become a chief minister. Many of people went and requested him. He said, politics is anathema to me, I will not be in politics. There it changed. Again it went back to national parties. And when the national parties are there, I don't think language will be an issue in politics. However serious any regional party may try it, but it is not possible in Karnataka.
I would like to add here, if the language is a parameter, then this is the first religion Basavanna founded in Canada in 12th century. Today we are not attached to him. Still we are having a difference of opinion. In Karnataka, language is not a major uniting point. Here something different. We are not fanatics like some other South Indian languages. We are more moderate than this thing. I think probably Kannada doesn't have that kind of binding effect in Karnataka elections, probably because earlier so many this thing have failed.
But can Mathas change that?
Mathas, I don't give any, these journalists are giving very much importance to Matha. I don't think Mathas are playing very important role because they are saying that is why this Mr. Shah is going, Mr. Siddaramaiah is going, everybody is going. In fact, Mathas are always with the winning political party. For your kind of information, earlier they were with, when Siddaramaiah was there, they were with Siddaramaiah. Now the Bommai is there, they are with Bommai. Tomorrow, if Shankar comes, they will be with Shankar.
They are with the ruling party.
They are with ruling party.
Nothing.
Please keep in mind, they are not going to tell anybody vote for this particular party. It is not there. Only in one Karnataka, one Matha, it is saying that it is there asking them, their voters to win particular person or their own caste-based elections. Otherwise, Mats are not playing any important role. Only my friends are giving importance to them. Definitely, I can say this.
They are trying to play, but they are not able to do that. They have lost that commanding position which was there once upon a time. All the pontiffs and seers which were heading those matas long way about 2-3 decades back, they were all very much respected. They were in a commanding position and all that. Nowadays, they are not so because of they have made many compromises. They are also made more compromises than politicians, and they know they are also self-serving, and they are also many. I told no, business world will include everything. So they want their own survival now. It is all subcastes have matas now. Earlier it was not there.
And nobody.
Sorry, I think someone wants to ask a question.
Thank you. While I understand that the context of the conversation was mathas and politics, I think we've done a great disservice to the politicians who almost, have a Rajni Kotaris kind of approach when it comes to religious powers. They go across the spectrum, whether it's a mosque, whether it's a church, whether it's mathas, whether it's Hinduism. My question, I'd like to move away a little from what we've been discussing this evening. While we talk about the traditional mathas and the traditional religious, power sects, have we missed a trick when it comes to the new religious movements, the cults who seem to enjoy a huge following and also enjoy great financial power, whether it's the Nityanandas or the Jaggi Vasudevs or even Ravi Shankar, who have amazingly great financial power with them and great power to influence politics, I think. So that's one question that I'd like any of you to answer for me, please.
I think if I can venture, because a lot of these cults are not limited by a caste following, usually. And secondly, I don't know, the political impact has not been studied really. Do they have any political impact? Are they being quoted by politicians? Aditya, you want to venture an answer?
No, they are. I don't think either. Since Madam mentioned 2-3 names, either Ravi Shankar or Jaggi Vasudev. Let us not discuss Nityananda is in some. If he is there in some island. So I don't consider him as a cult or any religious man. He is a perfect businessman, religious businessman, very surpassed many notorious business people also. So these are, the name itself suggests, no, it is art of living. They know what is the art of living and what will help them to live and what will help them to become popular and all that. They are not propagating any. See, Jaggi Vasudev in Coimbatore and here also he has put up a Shivalinga and all that. Since they know that, I told you earlier, 99% of the people are religious. They know that they are religious and they want to be quite a little different from what is happening in and around. So it becomes vast. There is music, there is dance, and there is so many things which attracts the younger generation, which is not there in traditional mutts. So that is an attraction for the time being. I don't think it is a permanent feature.
And like Vikar said, the followers of these new spiritual movements are cults. I don't call it movements, cults. They cut across caste barriers, and it is not a very homogeneous community for them to have an impact like the Mathas do.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I had one question. We all like together for the last hour we have discussed how like Mathas influence politics and vice versa. But since there are like people who have dabbled in politics here before, I'd like to get to know how this actually plays out in terms of mobilization or in terms of political currency. What leverage or what bargaining power do these seers and Mathas have, and how they actually use it, and how they actually provide support or then withdraw support and then actually make that quid pro quo happen? How does it actually happen on the ground? That's what I want to know.
I think this is for Mr. Shankar.
The influence of seers and mutts nowadays is very limited. In any constituency you take, there is no caste or religion which is more than 50% of the voters. Very rarely, there are very few constituencies where the voters are belonging to a particular caste who will be around 50%, not more than that. And the reason why they try to go and take their blessing, and the seers and Mathadipatis will not be so courageous to bless one person and not to bless other person. They will themselves call all the political contestants and they'll bless them according to his capacity. He will finance them to a little extent, whatever extent is possible. That is also happening there. See, take the example of Dharmasthala Virendra Hegde. He is a minority, he is a Jain. But most of the people who are going there are not even 1% of Jains go there. It is all other Hindus who go there, and all that they pay their obedience to the deity there, which is a Shiva in the form of Manjunatha. So nowadays whole composition and these things have changed, and this quid pro quo happens to the only mutts which are there in the business of education or real estate or some other things. It will not happen to others. There are many mutts, with due respect to many Mathadipatis. The Koppala, this Gavisideshwar Mutt, in Gadag Tontadariya Mutt, and recently who passed this Siddheshwara Swamiji's ashram. There are many such mutts in the country, still there are there in the state, which have nothing to do with any political party or nothing to do with politics. Most of the people seen in the media, in the visual and print media, is unfortunately like politicians. Those who mutts and seers who are very active in dabbling with politicians, they are given more publicity and prominence. Then those, you should see, if you have not gone to Koppal and Gavisideshwar, you should go there. The Jatra which happens there, recently it happened there, once in a year it happens. More than 15 lakh people come there from nowhere and go within a few hours after seeing him, after hearing him. and the way they feed those all the millions of people, it is a strange thing. It will almost like a wonder that is happening there. Some such mutts are still there, even among Brahmins, even among Lingais. And there, all these mutts which are coming up nowadays, and you see every caste is having a mutt. It is nothing but politics. It is not going to help their caste, or it is not going to help the society. It is just competition, which there is a competition between Lingais and Vakaligas. So Vakaligas here also wants to establish as many education institutions as possible as Lingais have established in 8-9 centuries. That is a competition which is taking place where there is no vote. That's all. The difference between politics and mutt is that here there is a vote and there is no vote. That's all. And there are some mutts which have done, even now doing enormous service in the field of education also. The whole this midday meal scheme, everything, they got inspiration from the mutts only. The service rendered by Siddhganga Mutt is unparalleled in anywhere in the country for decades together, without expecting anything back. One example, small example, when I was a minister in J.H. Patel's government, he was giving medical colleges to many places, including he gave it to Virendra Hegde, he gave it to Muslims, he gave many things. He sent me and MP Prakash to Siddhganga Mutt to meet this year and convince him to get a medical. He said, no, I do not want a medical college. I am not here to make money. I want to educate as many children as possible. That is my motto. That type of seeds and mutts are also there. That quid pro quo depends upon the integrity of the mutt and integrity of a politician.
Shankar sir mentioned Tontadarya Swami. He also led people's agitation against a steel plant that was coming up and stood with the people. So there are glorious in Gadag. So there are many examples like that also, since we have been mostly concentrating on the negative aspects.
So this Swarnavali Mutt are there in Sirsi, which is a Brahmin mutt, and there also he is called as a Hasiru Swami, Green Swami. His commitment towards environment and ecology, many of such Swamijis are also there.
One question I had that was brief, that came up briefly, but it did not get much of attention, is the caste association and the Mata. What is the is there a relationship between these two? Is it not there, or is there some movement with people aligning to caste associations vis-a-vis the Mata? That is one thing I think that's very important, because in Karnataka's politics, caste associations have also historically played a very important role.
Mr. Patil, are you particularly interested in Lingayat Mathas?
Not
The caste associations are there for all the castes. Nowadays, it has become a fashion to have a caste association and it is a easy way it is a shortcut to become a political leader. So there is a Vakaligara Sangha in Karnataka, which is elected body. Do you think that Vakaligas are going to vote according to the dictates of this Vakaligara Sangha? The amount of money they spend for Vakaligara Sangha election is more than what an MLA spends for his election. And there is a Virashaiva Mahasabha, which is headed by All India Virashaiva Mahasabha, headed by Shamnur Shisham. Do you think that he will be able to, he himself belongs to a particular political party? He can't dictate. It is there, it has to be there, it is there, that's all. I can't say more or less than this, because in some areas where backward classes have formed an caste associations and organizations, there it will play a role, because they have been deprived of many things for decades together. Not Vakaligas and Lingais and Brahmins, these three major communities. It is backwards, other backward communities who are deprived of many opportunities, they organize and there they play a role, and there they vote in a particular way. It's a huge subject, and it could be discussed. The caste and voting pattern can be discussed as a separate subject. It is a huge subject, but there it plays a role, not in among the major communities who are a landed class, who have education institutions, who have the support of the religious mutts for them. There the caste organization have a role. Where there is no mutt and where there are no education institutions, where they are not landed class, there it plays a role.
I think we have time for one last question.
So conventionally, people from all community used to worship mattas, either if they were from Vokkaliga community or Lingayat community or Brahmin community. But as you said, from the past 20 years, things have been changing. Each community is getting their own mutt or establishing their own mutts. So how is it going to be ahead for those institutions, and how will still people from various communities worship those older mutts of Lingayat or Vokkaliga or Brahmins, or will they shift over to these politically motivated mutts?
No, I think you misunderstood. We are talking about the continuation of certain mathas. I think the point Aditya made right at the beginning, that the Brahmin and Lingayat mutts have a long history in Karnataka. But in the past 50 years, starting with the establishment of the Adi Chunchandgiri Mutt of the Vokkaligas, other caste groups, he mentioned Muruga Matha, Lingayat Matha, who started a specific training program, perhaps we can call it, for other backward communities. So for example, if you look at Devangas, which is a weaver community, Kurubas, Valmikis, Upparas, Lambanis, Madiwalas, Vishwakarmas, Madigas are Dalits. So all these communities established their own mathas. So they did not have a spiritual locus of their caste group. So this process is what is new and exciting, both academically and socially. What does this mean? Right? So no one is going to shift from one matha to other matha. There is a setting up of new mathas. And what does this mean for the politics of the state, for the society of the state? That is what we are trying to discuss.
I take in a different way. You must be a particular religion or something like. But I don't think that you are following that religion or matha. I'm sure. Because younger generation are not bothered. Only like us, we are bothering. We are thinking about matha, caste, religion and all that. But younger generation are not bothered about any particular religion or any particular caste or anything.
Sir,
They wanted
I
equality.
think that's a
they
very
wanted
broad statement.
No, not only
I think
that.
that's
Because
anyway,
you can just ask all the youngsters.
I think we are out of time.
None of them are not interested in the caste. None of them they are not interested in the religion, and they want some principles.
I think he has something to say.
Okay.
So I'm a Lingayat. So I worship Basavana. And my question is simple. So as Mr. Shankar mentioned, so Basavana wanted a casteless society.
Yeah.
So now what is the point in having a separate religion for Lingayat?
Exactly. That is the irony
And
of
let
the
me just
Lingayat
finish
religion.
it. So it was politically motivated,
Yeah,
and which
definitely.
I feel it failed. Of course,
Failed,
you don't
failed,
believe
failed,
it. Yeah,
failed.
it failed. Politically, it failed. And reservation, if we look at reservation benefits, other than having a separate religion, people are already spearheading it. Without getting a separate religion, we have Panchamashali movement, which is focusing exclusively on reservation. So on what basis are you or are people going for a separate religion tag for Lingayats, which is also against what Basavana preached?
No, it's not. Actually, the principles of Hindu religion and the Lingayat religion totally different. We have a much better points than the Buddha, Jaina and Sikh religions. And it is not a Hindu religion. Kindly read the books. I can provide you the books. There are so many books, there are so many literature, and we're totally different from the Hindu religion. And because of since 800-900 years, this has been told again and again that they are Hindus and all that. We are not Hindus. We are a separate religion and we have a separate principles. And that's it. And I'm happy that you are Lingayat, not you are a Lingayat caste, you are Lingayat religion. There is no caste in Lingayat. That's all I can say. And as far as the reservation is concerned, if we get the minority tag, then we can get 5% reservation. You all can get the benefit out of that.
Well, I don't.
You
want
don't need
reservation.
that. That is what I expect from youngsters. I never said that religion is this reservation is not a tool. It is anybody who wants that, let them take, but not everybody, because we have the strength. We have to study hard and we have to get the good number, and we will stand in the general merit and we will get the result. That's all we wanted from youngsters. Thank you.
Then it's better to
I-
preach
I-
the religion
I think
rather
we-
than, yeah.
Sorry, you can continue. Mr. Patil is here. You can continue having a conversation with him, but we are out of time. BIC events finish punctually, so 8 o'clock. So we started speculatively discussing what Mathas have done, and what will happen. And now we end with talking about reservation and politics. So, I mean, Mathas are a minefield in their own way. That's the sense that I get. The conversation, the tangents that it took, that clearly shows how difficult it is to discuss the relationship between Mathas and politics. And I'd like to thank Aditya, Mr. Patil on behalf of BIC, Mr. Shankar. Thank you so much, and thank you all of you. Good night.
Thank you.